Hello, Namaskar, welcome to my pod, the CAA Show. CAA, as all of you know, is Conversations and Analysis, and my name is Juggi Bhasin. So, the worst has happened in Bangladesh as far as we are concerned, and the sooner we accept this changed reality, move on, and do something about it, the better it would be for us. Before I talk of the next steps India should be taking in view of this crisis, let us first try and not spend too much of time, but try and understand the problem for what it is. Fact number one, this has been a situation where this has not been, as a lot of people are saying, that it had become untenable for Sheikh Hasina to stay as a Prime Minister of Bangladesh, and she fled Bangladesh in some kind of an arrangement with the military. That is not true. It is a military coup. And by the way, this is probably the 30th or the 31st military coup in Bangladesh's checkered history. This has been a military coup planned by the military, but really the people behind this coup are not even the military. They are the Jamaat, they are the ISI, they are the BNP, all these forces, and especially the ISI. These are the forces who are behind this military coup, and it was in a coup that Sheikh Hasina was upstage. She had no choice but to flee from Bangladesh to India. So let's keep this backdrop in mind. It is a kind of a what you can call a forcible eviction, and the only thing which Sheikh Hasina has to be thankful about, that she did not lose her lives, because in these military coups anything and everything is possible. If you see the past checkered bloody history of Bangladesh, then in all the military coups, the military leaders who have carried out these coups, many of them have been killed to be upstaged by different kind of army officers. So Bangladesh has a very bloody checkered history, but that is not something which I want to go into in great detail in this podcast. Let it suffice that this is the backdrop. This was a military coup and Sheikh Hasina had no choice but to flee to India. That's the first point. Number two, again I will reiterate, the forces behind this coup are of course the BNP. They are the Jamaat, the student wing of the Jamaat, which has been the face rather leading the coup, but the force, the real force behind it, now it is, our intelligence sources are saying, is really the ISI of Pakistan. No surprises there. There is probably a hand of China also, but there are a lot of people who are also talking of the fact that the United States, especially the CIA, could have something to do with that, though these are not verified reports. But we will probably in a little bit of time, in a matter of few days or weeks, we will also know the truth about that. That's the first factoid which we need to keep in mind. The second factoid, there is no question about it that this military coup could not have been carried out without the active connivance of foreign powers, and the finger pointing actually goes to both a collusion between the Pakistan's ISI and China. They have the maximum to gain from this coup, but there are also reports that the CIA, that is the Central Intelligence Agency, could have been involved in this. But the contradiction which I don't understand is that what is the connection between, if China and ISI are involved at one hand and if the US is involved on the other hand, what is the connection? There is actually no connection out there. So both could not have been involved simultaneously, or perhaps they were involved, we don't know. But that is a point which needs a little more clarity, which hopefully we will get in the next few days. And factoid, or fact number three, is, and the question we should be also asking is, that could India have done something about this? Could we have? And the short answer is no. I am pretty sure that our foreign office mandarins, the powers to be in North Bloc and South Bloc, in fact, the entire government probably knew that something like this was on the cards, because the situation in Bangladesh was actually spinning out of control very rapidly. And as I said, the face of the unrest, the protests, were of course the students, but backing the students were the religious fundamentalists, the Islamists, the Jamaat, the BNP, which is of course a political party, but again it is under a lot of influence of the Jamaat. The Jamaat, by the way, is banned organization in Bangladesh. And the real force, as I said, and I'll reiterate it again and again, was the ISI, no question about it. So we need to keep these facts in mind, the backdrop of what has happened in Bangladesh. And therefore, I'm going to ask the questions in this podcast that what does it mean for India? What do we have to do in the coming next days, in the coming next weeks? What are our options? I'm to discuss all that. But before I do that, as always, I would urge all of you to please subscribe to the CAA show. All you have to do is to press on that red button on your screen. You become a subscriber. Subscription is, of course, completely free. Podcasts are, as I said, and you have seen many of my podcasts. They are always interesting with different ideas. And of course, please do like the podcast also. That's very encouraging for us. Okay, now let's get back to the central issue. What are now India's options? What should India be thinking about? And more important, what should India be doing? First things first. Let's first talk a little bit about Sheikh Hasina, and then we will talk about the steps which India needs to take. The fact is, a lot of people are already suggesting that Sheikh Hasina could be like dead weight for us. We need to curry favor with the new regime, whatever dispensation comes into power out there. And, we should not be taking the burden of housing Sheikh Hasina in India. My answer to that is that this is preposterous. Sheikh Hasina, by and large, has been a friend of India. Bangladesh has been kept literally under check, probably single-handedly by this lady to have some friendly ties with India, and therefore we should be treating her as a state guest. We should give her all the facilities, and if she does not, and I'm pretty sure it's not going to be so simple for her to get asylum. Forget about the UK. UK is going through its own phase. But I don't see the Labour government in UK giving asylum to Sheikh Hasina. I'll be very, very surprised if they do that. Or even for that matter, another European country, certainly not the US. And therefore, getting asylum, maybe in the UAE, but let's wait and see. It's not going to be simple for her to get political asylum, and therefore India should, as respect and honor what has happened in the past. She has by and large been a friend of India. So if she wants to stay here as long as it is possible, we should be okay with that. We should resist all pressures that she's dead weight and we don't want her and let her go wherever she wants to. We should not get into that. So that's the first point we need to keep into mind. Now, let's first understand the problem makers before we even talk about how we solve the problem for us. The biggest problem maker, and now these are again reports which intelligence sources are saying, these are obviously, as I said, I don't have a direct pipeline to the intelligence community in India, but these are again reports which are appearing in the media which suggest, and I am not surprised at all, that the ISI has been actively plotting this entire takeover. And not only today, yesterday, or the last few weeks, or ever since the student unrest started, that is took on a very serious form from January onwards in this year, but rather this has been going on for a number of years now. The problem is that we had got into this phase in India that we had started underestimating both Pakistan and the ISI and what ISI is capable of. Just because, as I said, and I had said this in an earlier podcast, that we had probably been instrumental, or maybe we had something to do with all those terrorist commanders who had been knocked off in Pakistan, and we had been chest had puffed up, and we had all said, oh great, now the ISI is finished, Pakistan is gone, we can do things. Underestimating not only Pakistan, but especially the ISI has been a major blunder on our parts. We should not do that, because let me in synopsis say the ISI is actually a multinational intelligence agency. Pakistan might starve, they might not have the next bread or the next roti to eat. All that might be true, but Pakistan will always have money to fund its ISI and especially its military. And the ISI has spread its tentacles in many parts of the world, not only in Bangladesh, not only in Nepal, certainly in India, but also I would say in the UK, in a lot of Western countries. They're very active among the Khalistani groups also, and therefore underestimating the ISI has, if we are doing that, then it is a huge blunder on our parts. We need to stop that. The ISI will go to any extent to undermine India. And therefore, this game plan now it emerges is, and the ISI has been doing it very systematically, methodically. I will talk of the modus operandi of the ISI, how they probably have been going about it, but I'll give those points a little later. But first, let's try and understand a big macro picture of the subcontinent. See, we have something called what is called a neighborhood first policy of the present government. On the face of it, there is nothing wrong with it because you must maintain good relations with India. But then India is not just any other country. India is, let's say, not Belgium, or India, let's say, is not even a Germany, or India, certainly not some Scandinavian country. India is a very, very big, and I would say a very powerful country in its own right in today's day and age. This neighborhood first policy is fine. You maintain good relations with the neighbors, but you have to maintain these good relations on your terms. And unfortunately, the kind of, I would even say, the diplomacy or the kind of outreach we have been practicing is, we have been practicing what is called an appeasement policy, which always backfires on our faces. Why do I say that? Please understand first the character of the subcontinent. The subcontinent, and I'm now talking of not only India, but Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, all these countries, even Maldives for that matter. The subcontinent is not Western Europe. The subcontinent is not the United States of America. In the subcontinent, even today, despite the march of democracy, despite the march of human rights, in the subcontinents, some of the old system, the old values still play out by and large. And what are the old values? The old values are, everybody respects strength. Nobody respects all this talk of fine points of human rights, or being very, very careful how you talk to your neighbors, how you treat them, the treading the fine line. All that is not respected. He who has strength holds sway in the subcontinent. And I get the feeling, maybe I'm wrong about this, I would like to be corrected, of course, but I get the feeling that what we do is that we are, there's a Hindi word actually which even best describes it, not even an English word. We are very, very udar. Hum udar ho jate hain when it comes to our neighbors. Certainly not with Pakistan. We have almost kind of broken off with Pakistan, but we become udar, we become very generous when it comes to our neighbors. We saw that, to just give you a couple of examples, some time back, we started supplying almost free electricity to Nepal. And we all know what Nepal has been doing vis-a-vis India. There have been a lot of issues with Nepal. When the Sri Lanka crisis happened, which was on similar lines to the Bangladesh crisis, what did we do? We were the first ones to reach and give them billions of dollars, to help them tide over the crisis. Bangladesh, n number of times we have accommodated their interests. We have even, for that matter, we have suffered a lot of pain by not making too much noise because of all the illegal migration that's coming in from Bangladesh. Look, all this would have been fine if these countries had been reciprocating, or there were forces in these countries which looked upon India as a friend. But unfortunately, the reality is, whether it is Nepal, whether it is Bangladesh, Pakistan, I am not even counting because that is a completely hostile enemy country. And I would even add Sri Lanka also to that extent, because there have been forces which have been very inimical to India in Sri Lanka also. All these countries have had at some point or the other a policy of Indians get out or get out India. Maldives certainly get out India. Bangladesh also had the same policy of get out India. In short, the point which I'm making is that if you continue with this appeasement policy, of course we have the money now, our economy is doing extremely well, we can afford to dispense this money, but just dispensing largesse, just giving money and not taking accountability in return, not imposing your conditions and not imposing your will on these countries, that always backfires. And in that respect, only and only in that respect, we need to take a page out of China. Look at the way China conducts its diplomacy. It also maintains its network all across the globe, but it extracts a price. And people would argue, oh, but the Chinese are not popular. Certainly they're not popular, but then we are not in world affairs. You're not in for a popularity contest. You are there to impose your will. You are there to get gains for your country. And when it comes to that, we have these problems, all these countries which ring around us. So the short point I'm making is that come what may, whatever we might try, or we might even try a very tough policy, but that is going to take a long time before we do that. But in the meantime, what we really need to, and that's the first big step we need to take, is that we need to, first of all, and I'm saying this with a lot of consideration, careful thought, we need to be absolutely comfortable with an isolationist policy. What is wrong with being isolationist? This entire concept of take your neighbors along with you, bring them along with you, I don't agree with that. If the neighbors are of the variety of which we have seen in Bangladesh, and let me say something about Bangladesh out here. Certainly Sheikh Hasina was by and large on her side, even though she was making a lot of overtures to China. But by and large in Bangladesh, if you go deep down, you don't even have to go deep down, talk to the ordinary Bangladeshi on the street, and they are hostile towards India. They are very hostile towards India. These are facts. We can't run away from it. We close our eyes to it. We can't escape the reality. Same thing to a large extent even in Nepal, even though we have a very open border with Nepal and everything, and all the people come and work here, and there is a back and forth, but they don't particularly like us. To some extent, that is true in Sri Lanka. Also, Maldives, of course, a lot of the population is hostile to us. Let's face it, we don't win any popularity contests in all these countries. So why are we bothered so much? That's my short point. We should be comfortable in us. We should be securing our borders. We should literally have this wall around us. We are perfectly okay. And I'll give you two examples, two very interesting examples how powerful countries in the world have isolationist to that extent policies, but they still do very well. The first is, of course, you would have guessed by now, is Israel. Israel is ringed by hostile countries all around, and yet the war is, of course, it's going on right now, but that also will end at some point. But the fact is, Israel by and large thrives. It is doing very well for itself. Nothing wrong with being isolationist in that sense. And of course, they would like to have more and more friendly nations on their side, but they are not rushing in or compromising their principles to do that. And the second country, think about it, is actually the United States of America. What is happening to the south of Florida in South America to the United States? Most of the Central American countries, or South America as we call it, are again unstable countries. Of course, Mexico is a very big country, but a lot of the other countries are very unstable. Some of the regimes, for instance, the Venezuelan regime, these regimes, Nicaragua, they have a lot of forces are hostile to the US. But the US lives with that. The US couldn't be too bothered about it, and they still impose the writ, they still impose their policies, because as they keep on saying, this is our backyard and we'll do whatever we have to do to have these people follow whatever the American vision of living with neighbors is all about. And I don't understand why we can't do the same. You keep on accommodating yourself, you keep on overcompensating to your neighbors, and this is what happens. You're left high and dry, as what has happened in Bangladesh. So this is a factor we need to keep in mind. Start by having this a little bit of an isolation policy, where you kind of literally you become impervious to whatever is going on in these countries. It's their internal affair. Whoever they want to elect, they want to, even if they want to bring the ISI back, let them do that. Pakistan, let them destroy themselves. We shouldn't be bothered less. We need to just secure our own borders. Then what has happened is that the next step is that in a strange way, and this is the point which again will try and make and get across, is that this, of course, is bad tidings for India, but it actually presents us with a very rare and a very interesting opportunity. And what is this opportunity? See, we had become literally handicapped during the Sheikh Hasina regime because of our friendly relations with Sheikh Hasina. We knew there was a lot of influx of illegal migrants from Bangladesh into India, especially in West Bengal and in some states in the northeast. But we really couldn't do much about it because you were balancing your ties. As I said, you were overcompensating your ties with Sheikh Hasina and Bangladesh. But now that cover is gone. That lady is no longer there. Whichever dispensation comes in, I promise you, is going to be a dispensation, political, military, a combined dispensation, students or whatever you want to call it, Jamaat, or even if it's a Pakistan propped up government, all those dispensations now are going to be hostile to India. We had to better, as we say, wake up, smell the coffee and accept it. If that happens, then the opportunity which I'm talking about is that now is opportunity for us to push back the illegal migrants who have entered into India. This is our opportunity. Instead of people are talking about, oh, we will be inundated with 1 crore refugees coming from Bangladesh. Certainly you don't allow it. You don't have to go the Western European way where, they have to go through courts and processes in their parliament. Oh, how do we stop these illegal migrants from coming in? As I gave you the example in the beginning, in the subcontinent even today, strength is respected. And what is strength on the ground? Strength on the ground are your BSF troops guarding the border with machine gun nests. You have the army at the back backing it. You have various layers of defense. Don't allow anyone to come in. Rather, start pushing out the illegal migrants who are creating a problem for us in northeastern states, in West Bengal, changing the demographic character of some of these states. This is our opportunity to get those people back. Turn this adversity into your advantage. That is what I would certainly recommend. And then the next step, of course, is that we need to firewall ourselves. How do we firewall ourselves? There are two things. I'm going to talk both of the physical aspect of it. I'm going to talk also of the intellectual or of the cyber aspect of it, which has become very, very critical in today's day and age. See, like we have a border fencing with Pakistan, the time has come when we have to do the same with Bangladesh. Regimes will come and go, regimes will change. People sometimes who are a little more friendly to you, but mostly who are hostile to you, will always be there. That is going to keep on happening. But the border fencing, it's a huge amount of money to spend, but it is well worth spending it. We have to do that. So that physicality, because this will ensure at the moment, because the India-Bangladesh border is very porous. And therefore, even though BSF, I'm sure, might be doing a great job, but the fact is they cannot guard every nook and corner and place out there. And there are a lot of these migrants who keep coming in, creating a big, big problem for us. So we need to do something about the physical part of it. The other part of it, and that is, I think, the main part, because now we have to ask ourselves the question that how did the Pakistanis, how did the ISI manage to turn literally the tables on us? Let's face it, the tables have been turned on us in Bangladesh. How are they managed to foment all this problem for us, create this trouble for us? And that is via the route of the tech giants, rather to the root of the social media, to the WhatsApps of the world, the Instagrams of the world, through that particular route. Because all the calls for the students to come out from the universities of Dhaka, Chittagong, all these places, for all the Jamaat people, for all the religious fundamentalists, the Islamists in Bangladesh, and rail, rant, and then overthrow the Sheikh Hasina regime. Tech has played a huge role. WhatsApp, all this mobilization, and the ISI has been behind it. And that is what I'm saying, that we now need to strengthen bringing our social media And I believe there is a new broadcasting social media. Also, a bill is coming very, very soon, but it has to be brought quicker. It has to be stringent. There has to be complete control. There has to be an enforcement of those norms, because they are not only wreaking havoc, or rather they are wreaked havoc in Bangladesh, but the real target ultimately is back home here in India, because after Bangladesh, it's India. They have already tried it. They have done this. They have done what are called sample runs, I would say, when they tried it in the CAA agitation. They tried that, and to a large extent they were successful. And then, of course, COVID happened in a very ironically savage way. COVID literally saved us, and this agitation died down because the CAA agitation had got out of control. And therefore, we need to do something about this entire tech stranglehold, the insurrection, the insurgency which is coming our way through these tech platforms. They did it in Bangladesh, and certainly India is next. We need to keep that in mind. And the last point which I want to make in today's podcast is, and where I'm going to differ with a lot of other friends on the right-wing media, is we need to keep our indigenous Muslim population with us and not alienate them. Now, this is very, very important, because believe you me, the next thing these ISI agents, this agent provocators and the forces in India, they are coming in, but they will come in through the route of alienating of the Muslim population in India, of spreading the kind of disaffection. And they already are to some extent successful, I would say, some extent, not fully. But we have to prevent that. And I don't agree where people are saying that, oh, because the Muslims did not vote for the BJP in these elections, so they need to be taught a lesson. I'm sorry, I don't agree with that. That is their wish. They're right. They don't want to vote for the BJP. They can vote for anyone. That is their concern. The fact of the matter is, you have to keep the Muslims in India in your corner. It is very, very important. And again, I am not for a moment saying that don't bring in bills like this new bill which is coming, the Waqf bill, where there will be amendments, there will be reform in the Waqf. That also is needed. Triple talaq is needed. Even the uniform civil code, all these things are needed. I'm not for a moment saying that there's something wrong with that. They're all correct. They all should be brought in. But what you need to do is to talk with the Muslim community. You bring them in reasonable manner, explain to them. Don't come with this approach that we are going to now teach you a lesson. If that, I'm not saying that the government is doing it, but I'm saying if there is even a thinking like that, then we are being stupid, because we are going to shoot ourselves in our own foot. Because imagine, even if a small percentage of the minority population in India gets into this kind of a mode, what we have seen in Bangladesh, how do you think we're going to handle that? Do you think it's going to be easy for us? This is what people don't understand. People who are all the time advocating, oh, the Muslims here need to be taught a lesson. Don't get into that. We need to keep them in our corner. They are our brothers. They need to be with us. Let them vote whoever they want to vote. That's their choice. That doesn't matter. At the same time, you need to be firm. You need to bring in these equality legislations, I call them, which are actually only going to reform the Muslim community. It can't alienate them. Eventually, there will be a lot of people who will raise a ruckus about it. Let them keep on doing it. Doesn't make a difference. So that's my point which I'm making, is that we need to first firewall ourselves from these ISI influences. And the ISI is very, very active right now. As I said, Pakistanis might not have bread to eat, but they will still give money to the ISI, to their army. That will keep on going. And if we ignore that, then we are the biggest fools, not they. So that we need to keep in mind. And the fact of the matter is, now after Bangladesh, they will be coming for us. And also, not only the ISI, but we need to be careful of other agent provocators in the world. If there are these deep state conspiracies which are being hatched by intelligence agencies of powerful countries in the world, and you know who am I talking about, then we need to be careful about that also. The fact is, we are certainly living in a very, very hostile environment. Bangladesh has proven it. Nepal has proven it to us. Pakistan, of course. Even Sri Lanka, I would say, Maldives, certainly. We know the problems. Things are not that great also with Myanmar, for that matter. We are ringed by problems all around us. Let's accept the fact. It doesn't matter. Let's move on. Let's be strong within. And let us make policies where we protect our own majority, minority, whatever you want to call it, our own people. We firewall ourselves. That's the way to go. And then whatever happens in these countries, see, any country which, if you, as I say, if you take out the history of Bangladesh, I mean, literally there was a coup a year, literally a coup a year, one military coup after another, after another, after another. So they will go on. And some of these countries, to my mind, are actually not even suitable for democracy. You know, democracy can't run in these countries. It has not worked in Bangladesh. It certainly hasn't worked in Pakistan, for all its pretensions of being a democracy. In Nepal now, there are reports that the people are viewing the fact that why did we overthrow the monarchy there? Why did we kill the people of the who are members of the monarchy? They are regretting that. It's already happening there. So let it be. This is not our concern. We are not here to spread democracy in these countries or to bring human rights or whatever. Let them do whatever they want. We need to ensure our own democratic values. We need to protect our own people. We need to firewall ourselves. That is the way we should be going. And then the Bangladesh crisis might just appear as another crisis, the kind of crisis which keeps happening in Maldives and Bangladesh and Pakistan all the time. Let it happen. We couldn't give two hoots about it. We should arrive at that stage instead of being so concerned as we are right now. And on that note, I come to the end of this podcast. I hope you really enjoyed this podcast. And till next time, it's goodbye and cheers from my end.